Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Before we go any further, please subscribe and like the videos down below. So today we're going to have a chat with a gentleman by the name of Glen Azar. He owns Venture Professionals, manages the Building Better Human project and their podcast. And he also runs a gym down in Brisbane called Project 180. I think it's much more than a gym. I think it's the next evolution for gyms in the future. So we'll go through all that stuff. I met Glenn 2 years ago doing Kokoda track with Mates for Mates. He was our guide, took us over, and taught us the history of the battle and what the Australians and the Fuzzy Wuzzies went through. So without further ado, here we go. It's good.
Nice.
How you been anyway?
Mate, I've been really good, really good. Like, hectic and crazy like everyone is, but, just adapting to life as you do. What else can you do?
Yeah, that's it. So, so I've started a YouTube channel. So, mainly to, show my transformation on my life with dealing with my PTSD and everything to do with that. But then also I want to shine light on mental health. So, and
nice.
the struggle that, a lot of us do go through, it's still not talked about enough, in my opinion. So, I met you 2 years ago when I did Kokoda with Mates for Mates, and hearing your story and what you've been doing in the community has been pretty awesome. So I just want to highlight that for all my viewers.
Yeah, mate. Happy to answer anything you want.
So first question, big one is, who is Glen Azar? I know that you're got the Venture Professional company where you run all your ventures like Kokoda. You also, managing the Better Human project and the podcasts. And, you also founding member of Project 180 down in Brisbane.
Yeah.
So, what else is there to know? Like, there's so much there, but who are you yourself, like away from?
I guess it's hard to pull me away from all of that stuff, but who I am, like, first and foremost, I guess in this day and age, I'm a dad. I've got 4 kids aged from 25 down to 12-year-olds. So 25, 23, 16 and 12. That's always going to be my first and biggest job for years. Even when I had kids, I identified just as a soldier for the 17 years I spent in. But these days I realized that that was just a job that I had. I loved it, but it was just a job that I had for a period of time. And I learnt to disassociate from that a little bit. Really what I am in this day and age outside of being a parent is just an absolutely passionate ambassador for what I call building better humans. And I use fitness, mindset and adventure to do that. And I moved out of home at 14 and a half, 15 years old. I had a pretty tough sort of upbringing. The army was really good for me in those early days in particular. I had a lot of good experiences. But out the other end of that, I started a business. I've been out 10 years in September last year.
Oh, wow.
I started Adventure Professionals like 4 or 5 months later. So outside of the army, I've never had a job. I've been working for myself, which has been good because you don't want to be told what to do by everyone.
Yeah.
But by the same token, you don't earn as much, particularly in those first 5 or 6 years. Life was tough, man. Like, I ended up going through a divorce. I ended up going through all the stuff that we as veterans can tend to sort of stereotypically go through. But what I became was really passionate about the fact that you can change what's going on up in here and only you can change it.
Yep.
And once I knew that, you need other people around you. You need people who believe in you, who share the vision, who just prop you up every now and then, definitely. But you still have to do the work. And once I realized that and I started to do the work, that's when life started to change for me. Now, I've found a diary. Actually, this one I've got right here with me that I wrote in 2008. So I was still in the army. And it was then writing about the fact that you can change who you are, you can change all. It was when I started planting these seeds. So 12 years later, I finally feel like I'm seeing fruit from those trees that I planted 12 years ago or probably before. But at some point I had to make that decision, right? And so now this is my passion. I build better humans. I I do it through a podcast. I do it through adventures. I do it through the gym here in Brisbane when we were allowed to have gyms. At the moment, of course, not so much. But even now, I'm training people online. I'm nearly 50 years old and I feel bloody amazing. I feel physically and mentally better than I've ever did in my life. 10 years ago, when I got out, as you would know, when you get it was a struggle street. I was talking about all this stuff, but I wasn't there yet. So whilst I was talking about that in 08, 09, 2010, I still had a lot of work to do on me. And I was ignoring that. I had the blinkers on. It was everyone else. It was the army. It was the world around me. It was my wife, or now ex-wife. It was all them. It wasn't me. And when I finally got my shit together and realized, hey, you've got to change some things, man, in yourself, I reckon the last 3 to 5 years have just been gold. But
Yeah.
so you and I met when I was at a really good point, when I was really coming to fruition. If you had met me 5 years ago, I was still struggling with my own stuff, and I was still getting in my own way. And that was the biggest thing for me.
Yeah, no, that's good to hear. I'm kind of slowly getting to that point now. It's, I've been out for 5 years this July, so it's only just I'm at a good headspace myself. And this all started like with me with that Kokoda trip. Like that
Yeah.
was mind opening for me, and
Well,
slowly,
it's life changing if we get it right. It's life
yeah,
changing because of what happened over there, because of the local boys. Like I can't take a lot of credit for what I deliver it really well. I try to, but it's like it's Killer and the boys. They're bloody amazing.
yeah. Rexon
Get
saved
to
my life twice out there, so
well, you get to see people with not much,
yeah,
materialistically not much, but they've got everything, and
mm,
that's what we're missing sometimes. And I think the middle of this coronavirus, as we record this, is humbling us as a race to say, particularly Western society, to say you've got it all wrong.
yeah,
It's not all the money and the houses and the cars and the what people think of you. It's the human connection. It's the people around you. I know as veterans, when we first get out, we kind of isolate ourselves. I'm sure you've been through that, and we don't step out in the real world. Now that that's been taken off us, we kind of go, actually, I like getting out. I like being able to go and have a coffee with a mate.
mm,
We need human connection, even if as hard, tough soldiers, we try and pretend we don't, but we do.
yeah,
And this has really, I think, humbled us. And I look at Killer and the boys and Rexton and, Sammy and all those boys, Stafford, and I think, man, they've got it ironed out.
mm,
They've got it ironed out, and we're the ones who are poorer than they are by a long shot.
yeah. Cool. So I'm going from that with Kokoda, one of the shirts you're wearing it today. The hashtag not dead yet. When did that come about, and how did it come about?
So I reckon that came about. So I wouldn't have given you one of those on your trip,
No, we didn't
because
get one that time. We had the ADA shirts.
because ADA sponsored that trip, and there are certain trips I don't give them out because, look, if it's read the wrong way, people can take it the wrong way. So obviously, us being veterans, people can say "not dead yet" is a bit disrespectful to the guys and girls not with us anymore through battle injuries or through suicides or all the things that we go through. But I view it the opposite. I viewed it as the ultimate respect to these guys and girls, to the people that you and I have lost around us. And in that they didn't get to live a full life, whether through their own hand or someone else's. And we almost owe it to them to live the best life we can. So about, maybe it's only 3 or 4 years ago, not that long ago, I came up with this "not dead yet." And we do what we do because we're not dead yet. And I've never sold these shirts. You can only get one of these by going on an adventure. But with coronavirus and all, I every week I'll at least get one email saying, "Hey, I want to buy a shirt." And I'd say, "No, you can't. You've got to come on a trip. That's what they're reserved for."
Yeah,
And then I thought, you know what? I'll sell a few this time because right now, to me, not dead yet is also resilience. It's about we're not going to bend over to whatever challenges are given to us. We're not going to fall down. We're not going to go to our knees. We're going to stand up and fight because we're not dead yet. That's the other side to it. So right now, during the coronavirus, during the uncertainty and the fear and the we don't know what's going on, we're going to stand up and we're going to deliver and we're going to help each other out. And so I said, you know what, I will sell them. And I just did a live video feed and said
yeah,
that.
I saw that, and you broke
It
your
went,
ATM machine, the FPOS
mate,
machine.
I've got a brand new FPOS and it melted down. I'm still surrounded by boxes of shirts. I've sold out. I think all of my larges are gone. I've got a few smalls and it went nuts.
Yeah,
And I'm still getting messages now. I've got a bloke that just messaged me and said, "I want to buy them for my whole team." And I said, "Well, mate, send me the sizes because I'm not going to be able to give you one for everyone. I'm just not going to have the numbers." But I think it's kind of cool. People have been tagging me in and going, I love what this is about. And if you put this on and you feel better about yourself and that you can stand up to, I'm feeling pretty crap today, this can change my whole mindset. It honestly
Yeah.
can. Like, I feel good, and I've got videos and music stuff that I use to lift my physiology, but I put these shirts on. I nearly wear them all the time anyway, and I just feel better. I feel invincible, more resilient. And it's a conversation starter. You know, I'll go
Yeah.
into a cafe and people go, "Not dead yet," like, and they'll kind of have a laugh about it. I go, "Yeah," and they go, "What happens if you die?" I go, "Well, you'll have to cut it off me. That's the rule, right?" So we just start this fun conversation as well, and
Yeah.
it's, I don't know, I love it. Like, people don't always get it, but when you explain it to them, again, it's not disrespectful to anyone. It's the opposite. It's respectful. Of when we're on Kokoda and you go to Bamana War Cemetery, there are 16, 17, 18-year-old kids buried there who didn't get to live a full life, who fought on behalf of Australia, 2.5 hours north of Brisbane, so very close to home. We owe it to them to live our best life.
Yeah.
You and I, as veterans, did our job on their behalf when we were in. But I think we still owe them when we get out to live as best a life as we can, because they didn't get that opportunity. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, amen to that. So we'll go talking about Kokoda and that. So the importance of your business, the adventure professionals, with regard to mental health. So I got a lot from it. We went over there with mates for mates. That's probably the most physical and mental thing I've ever done. Out of my whole life, whether I was in the army, deployed, or anything like that. Like going over there, you were very knowledgeable. You knew about all the battles, the history. It was awesome to learn to, walk it with the fuzzy wuzzies, or the new fuzzy wuzzy angels, as I like to see them. And, that really helped me break through one part of, my PTSD, depression, anxiety. So the question, so I got a lot from it. Took me a while to get to where I am now, but I believe in heavily on doing these adventures and bettering yourself to help with your mental health. Is that one of the reasons you started that, or did it just happen like that?
I kind of fell into it, I won't lie, initially, and I was still in the army. And it was, people weren't doing a lot of this stuff when I first fell into it. And then when I got out of the army, and more and more people asked me to take them on trips, and it really started to get big. And I realized that it wasn't just about a walk through the jungle, or, we do Kokoda Track, Everest Base Camp, Kilimanjaro. We go dog sledding up in the Yukon for 8. We do all these different experiences. And what it was I realized is that life is about experiences. Like, we can lose everything. We can lose a marriage. We can lose family members. We can lose money, as people are going through now, in our houses and jobs. But you can't lose experiences. Everything you've done in deployments, in the military, and then going on an adventure is all locked in here. That can't be taken off us. And so particularly on Kokoda, it's a physical and emotional journey. And my part of that is to take you through the military history, to walk you through the history as it happened, where it happened, as best I understand it. And I read about it a lot. And so what I understood about adventure is, I think it's the best personal development in the world, because who you are at the start of an adventure and who you are at the end of an adventure are two very different people. Um, it doesn't land straight away. You're right. If you've got challenges, so you're in the midst of the challenges that you were going through at that time, the lesson might not land for 6 or 12 months or 18 months, but it slowly unfolds itself. And you slowly think back to those days. And social media actually can be a good thing, because it'll pop up a memory. Go, hey, this was 12 months ago. And you go, wow, I did that thing. And now it feels better than what it did at the time. While you're out there, you're being challenged on all these different levels. But it kind of unfurls itself down the track somewhere. I've had people 2 years after a trip, other veterans, say to me, I feel like I left something from Afghanistan behind on Brigade Hill that day, but I really only realized that a year later or 2 years later. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But again, it's who you are at the start and who you are at the end of two different people. That's all. And so adventure is about the ultimate mindfulness, right? So when you're on Kokoda, as you know, you can't really think about, you don't really get anxiety, because that's future pace, because you haven't got really time to think about that, because you're thinking about that next hill or that next downhill or that next lunch break or that next whatever. And you don't really think about the past too much, which is where depression comes from when we lock ourselves in the past, because you're kind of in the moment of negotiate. You know what it's like? You turn off
Yeah.
for a split second and you fall over. Like you literally turn off for a split second and you're on your bum. So you're constantly thinking and focused, and you're talking to other people and you're hearing it, but you go into your head a bit, but you really do have to be mindful of where you are. These things don't work. Your social medias, you're not getting downloads of and text messages and emails, and so you can be nowhere else but right here in this moment. So I view it as the most ultimate mindfulness or meditation. Active. I can't meditate. I can't just sit there, and that's not me. But I can actively meditate through exercise or through adventures by actively doing something. You would have experienced on Kokoda where sometimes for an hour or two, you don't talk. You're just inside your own head, just thinking. And your brain is solving all the things that you thought were big problems because you're not downloading more information. You're just having time to sit in your thoughts and go, actually, I probably do know the answers to this if I give myself time to think about it, which I don't always get. You're not being bombarded by the news, by any negativity, by anything. You're just in the moment. So I just view it as the ultimate personal development and the ultimate mindfulness.
Yeah, no, awesome. So we'll just jump on to Project 180. So I know that it's only been around for not that long.
Just over 12 months.
Yeah, nice. So um, what was the reasoning that you started the Project 180?
So for people who don't know, I guess, which will be most people, Project 180 is a gym. And
Yep.
it doesn't sound like a gym name. And my last gym was called Fighting Fit. You knew what it was. It was Fighting Fit. We did boot camps, obviously coming from the military, and we did boxing. So Fighting Fit made sense. But this time I wanted to change, and I hadn't had a gym for 5 years. So I run an adventure business. I do the podcasts, the Building Better Humans project, and mindset coaching. And to me, it was like I had two pieces of a personal development puzzle, and I was just missing fitness again. So we wanted to open a gym. But the idea behind Project 180 is that everyone that, because it's not a fitness name, everyone that walks into the gym has a project that they want to work on. So for most of us, we want to have good personal relationships. We want to have good health and fitness, and we want to have a good mindset. That's what we're after. So you might have a great job and be financially secure, and you might have decent health and fitness, but you might have poor interpersonal relationships. Well, let's work on that. So the idea was that everyone that walks into the building has a project that they want to work on, because none of us are ironed out across the board. None of us ever. There's always ups and downs. So we all want to work on a project. And 180 was just, I want to take you from where you are to where you want to be. It's 180 degrees.
Yep.
From one end of the Kokoda track to the other, from the bottom of Mount Everest to the top, from being overweight to being fit and healthy, from having a poor relationship to having a good relationship, from whatever. So everyone is a project or has a project, and everyone we can take on a journey from where they are to where they want to be, whatever that looks like. So we do gym stuff, health and fitness stuff, but we do a lot of mindset. Every month I run a free mindset seminar in this office here for just our members. And they come in and we talk about goal setting or overcoming anxiety or, you know, how to stick to a task or whatever they want to, communication, all those things. So my idea is that we're working across all of those three parameters of fitness, mindset, and adventure. And Project 180 just became the place that we housed all of that. So it's not about making $1 million out of a gym. It's about how many people's lives can you change. Now, some people, like Kokoda costs like $6,000. Not everyone's got that available to them. But a gym membership's $40. Most people can afford that. So maybe they can't do Kokoda, but they can interact with us on a different level. And so coming in here, I don't know, it's just about, and we do a lot of free stuff. The podcast is free. So you can interact with me and my team and the people around us from free right through to the other end of the scale. And we're able to give something to everyone is the idea.
Yeah, no, that's very good. So your location down in Brisbane. I'll put all the stuff down in the description of my video. But is any views in the future for having other locations, or are you happy with just the one going so you can be there and manage it all?
Well, we call this Project 180 HQ because this is where we thought everything would run from. And it's a big building for a functional fitness facility. It's 600 square meters. That's a decent size. My idea when I first started was to have some satellites. And for me, the satellites were Melbourne. I've got a business partner in Melbourne. We have a lot of adventure clients come out of Melbourne for some reason. So it'd be nice to have a space for them. Then I thought I'd love to have one on the Sunshine Coast, because that's where I'd like to retire one day. And by retire, I mean do what I currently do, but from somewhere else. I love the beach. I've got a 16-year-old autistic and intellectually impaired son who's mentally between the age of 5 and 6. He loves the Sunshine Coast. So I'd love to live there with him one day. And then I thought the south side of Brisbane, because we've got the north side now. I thought Toowoomba, because Toowoomba's always been home for me. And that was my kind of idea, was just have 5 initially. Obviously with coronavirus, gyms are closed, and that's maybe made me go, wow, I don't know what the future looks like yet. But we've started to do some online stuff, and that's been really popular. So, okay, we can interact with people online for now. I always wanted to go online eventually anyway, with everything, with our fitness mindset and adventure stuff. Take everything online. So you can do a 5-video course on overcoming anxiety, and it might cost you $50. Or you can have a monthly subscription, have all of our courses and fitness programs. Or, we wanted to do this on a scale that was affordable for everyone. But still, I feel like human connection is needed in the sense of bricks and mortar still at some level. So if that's affordable, I would eventually like to probably not franchise so much, but license out and help gym owners. So I might get a guy or a girl that wants to own a gym, and we want to help them become really successful and do a really good job, as long as they have the Project 180 ethos. And then we get to sell adventures into that group, and we get to help them with mindset training.
Yep.
So people can, if they love what we do through building better humans, they can have the visceral experience, that touch, the sound, the sight, the smell, and actually go into a facility and go, I love all of this. So imagine being surrounded by all of this. Maybe it's a pipe dream, but that's kind of in the back of my head somewhere. But Corona is certainly, that was a 2-year plan initially to open my second one. That could be a 5-year plan or a 10-year plan. I don't know. Who knows what this looks like at the end.
Oh, no, that's good. So, but look at everything else that you would have said, 10, 12 years ago, that it was just a pipe dream, and look where you are now. So, no.
Yeah, mate, I've always been a big dreamer. I've always been a massive action taker, and I've regularly got it wrong. But I'm always moving forward and always learning too. I don't beat myself up about getting stuff wrong anymore. I used to maybe years ago, but I certainly don't anymore.
Yeah, that's good. So a big one I want to talk about, and pretty much you've mentioned it a few times, is the Better Human Project. So obviously you got that, and you got a podcast with that too. So where did that start, or when did it start, and how did it come about?
So we're into our 5th year. It's called the Building Better Humans Project. And it started out with, I went and spoke to this company called Corn Ferry once, and they wanted to talk about doing some leadership, some teamwork stuff, which obviously as soldiers we do a bit of, and possibly an adventure. And throughout the talk, I was talking about one of their top guys. I just said, everything we do is about building better humans. Because better humans make better bosses, make better staff members, it doesn't matter if they're accountants or doctors or, a mechanic or a hairdresser. If you can make people better, they become better at their jobs. They become better partners when they get home. They become better mums and dads. It's everything we do in life is dealing with humans. Your customers are human, your staff are humans. So I want to build better humans. And I left that conversation, and I had a mate who was in the conversation who had set up the meeting. And he said, mate, when you said building better humans, you had them sold. They loved it. All day, that's all they've talked about is we've got to build better humans. And it just stuck in the back of my mind. And I thought, years ago, I had a mate who was an ex-special forces guy. And he said, you do a bit of fitness and a bit of adventure and a bit of coaching. You're all over the place. And I thought, yeah, maybe I am a bit all over the place. But then I thought, no, I'm not. All of those things build better humans.
Yeah.
So then when I decided to start a podcast, it was the fact that I meet all these interesting people. Like you and I are doing this chat because we met on Kokoda. So I go to Kokoda. I've done 79 Kokodas. So I'm doing 7 to 10 Kokodas a year mostly. I meet all these interesting people. I should start chatting to them. And it was when podcasts weren't really big. And so I went to a few mates at Nova Radio, radio producers, said, you know, to do a podcast? They all went, no, no one knew back then. And we just kind of worked it out. And I just called it the Building Better Humans Project. And now we're over 400 episodes. We've done 650,000 downloads, which in the podcast world in America, for example, is nothing. But in Australia now, we do 20 to 40,000 downloads a month. So in Australia, that's quite big. We're always in the top 100 podcasts of Australia. We're always in the top 12 to 15 on the Nova Radio network. That's who hosts my podcast. And I'm nobody. I'm just a pretty normal bloke. I'm just a guy that left school in year 9, who joined the army, who bummed around for years and loving that life, then kind of got out, spat out the other end like you do with the army. I kind of fell into a lot of things. Like I'm 100% not special. I'm just incredibly resilient. And so it kind of grew into this huge thing. And now in the middle of coronavirus, my phone has been off the hook from companies I've never even heard of, big companies, from 50 staff to 700 staff ringing me saying, we need to build confidence and resilience in our team. And we heard you're the guy to do that. And I think that's pretty cool because I'm just an ex-grunt. I mean, I was at 8-9 infantry for a while. Then I became a medic and I was a PDI for a while. Like, I'm not special. I'm no different than you and all that. I've run into hundreds of me when I was in the army, guys and girls that just were good at what we did and we loved what we did and we served our country. But that's all. We're not special. And then it made me think, no one's special really. Any skill I've got, I can help teach you and you can help teach someone else. And we start this whole ripple effect that just rolls out and out and out. And I'm just a massive believer in that stuff.
Yeah, no, good. One thing I want to talk about, you mentioned it on one of your Facebook Live a couple of days ago about Mental Health Mondays. So you want to tell us a bit about that new podcast?
Yeah, so I guess with, I'm a registered nurse by trade now. I don't practice anymore, but my ex-wife, I'm still good friends with, is a nurse, and she's right at the front end of this COVID-19 and I keep an eye on all the medical stuff and everything I've read and the people I'm listening to, as in psychiatrists and psychologists and scientists, are all saying that COVID itself is a manageable problem that we're getting a handle on slowly but surely. The biggest health implication is going to be mental health. They're predicting that suicide rates in Australia, or actually in the Western world, not just Australia, in the next 6 to 12 months will jump by 300 to 400%. That, if you do the numbers on that, we're talking, 40 to 50 people in Australia a day. That's 40 to 50 mums, dads, brothers, sons, sisters, people that have got a network around them that are all going to be affected because of the financial strain, because of the uncertainty. So what I'm trying to encourage people to do is focus on your mental health. You're working from home. You've had all these rights taken off us. Like you and I as soldiers, we're used to being told what we can and can't do, being confined to barracks. We've been through this stuff before,
Yeah.
but if I'm a civilian, I've never experienced this. So that's pretty scary. So we're going to see people struggling with their mental health. And so I just decided every Monday on the podcast, I'm just going to talk about mental health, whether it's resilience, whether it's interviewing someone. So I interviewed my daughter, Alyssa, for the first one, just about how she handles big challenges and isolation on big mountains and how that can apply to you and I stuck at home. I've spoken to psychologists, and sometimes it's just me talking about, hey, here's a tip. Here's 2 or 3 things you could do this week to help you feel better about yourself. All I want to do, I'm a fighter by nature. I fought, obviously, that was what we do in the army, and that's what I did boxing for years. And so what I want to teach people is to stay in the fight. No matter how bad you feel, no matter how low you get, no matter how stressed or how much anxiety you feel, stay in the fight, because there are people around you that need you to stay in the fight. You can feel alone, and as veterans, we feel alone a lot. But there are people around you that love you, that need you, that would absolutely be devastated if you weren't here. So for their sake and yours, just stay in the fight until we get to the other end of this and we're all in this together. And so Mental Health Monday is just hopefully 5 to 10 minutes only on the podcast saying stay in the fight. That's the message right across the board.
And it's a great message. So one last question for you. What's next for you and everything else?
It's a great question, because I could have answered that confidently and competently 2 months ago. Like COVID-19, like everyone, has imploded our comfort zones. We don't know. And last year in our adventure business, we had our biggest year ever. This year we had more bookings than we had last year. And all of a sudden we've lost 90% of our income across all of our businesses overnight.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden we don't know what's next. But what I am doing is I'm just waiting for the dust to settle to see what the landscape looks like financially and just for the world makeup. And then I'm going to make my next decisions. But it's always going to be fitness, mindset, and adventure. We're not going away from that. If anything, I think the world needs more of what we deliver. They need more of what we are and who we are. and they're going to need more assistance. We need more human connection. We need more get outside in nature. We need to care less about money. I think money is going to have a whole different value at the end of this, because we're going to realize that it wasn't worth what we thought it was. People
Yeah.
who had millions of dollars, a lot more zeros than you and I have got, all of a sudden are brought back to where you and I are at. Like, we've all been leveled by this to say everything you thought was important in Western society isn't. And what is important is you and me having a conversation as humans. And so I feel like I'm going to wait for the dust to settle on that to work out what I do next. But I know it will always be building better humans. And it'll be in 5 and 10 years' time, in 2 years' time, in a year's time, I want to be fully online with our mindset modules so that people have, because I don't think anyone in Australia is really nailing this yet from a true, authentic point of view. No bullshit, no, fanfare and hugging everyone and saying it's all amazing. People like you and I that can say, hey, this is reality. Let's have some real conversations, and here's some real solutions from lived experiences. That's what I want to give people. That's what I know Alyssa can give people. That's what I know the people around me can give people. So we want to do that. And the way we're going to do that is, I think, to eventually get online. Because when people are struggling, I don't know if you're like me, but when you have anxiety or stress, or when does it hit you? At 10 or 11 o'clock at night, when you're laying in bed trying to sleep and you can feel that pounding in your heart.
Yeah.
I want to have some sort of platform where you can pick up your phone, and because that's what we do, we get on social media. But what if you could pick up your phone and watch a 5-video series on anxiety, something that helps calm you down, and someone that you feel is there for you when you can't just pick up the phone? Because most of us aren't going to phone someone at 11 o'clock at night. Even though you should have friends around that you could do that, but we don't want to be a burden. So what if there was another way? What if instead of vilifying these things, we could use them for good? That's where I see myself in 12 months, let alone in 5 and 10 years.
Yeah, that's nice. I fully agree with that. With the technology these days, everyone has that smartphone, and I know that would help me out. Like you said, middle of the night, when it's nice and quiet, that's when I get inside my head. During the day when I'm busy, not so much. So,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
there's a lot of us like that. So thank you,
When you're
Glenn.
tossing and turning at night and you're trying to sleep and the little brain turns on,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden, I don't know, I just feel it here, and you feel that little, and you just, it's a terrible feeling. So, yeah. And you know what? Before we sign off, teenage girls and teenage boys get this thing as well. So
Yeah.
the idea is with Alyssa, she can do some of these videos, and they could be, because they're not going to listen to me, a nearly 50-year-old bloke. I'm going to sound like their dad, but they might listen to a 23-year-old woman who's climbed Mount Everest, who's crossed the Kokoda track as an 8-year-old, and who's done all these things, and to go, hey, this is okay. Anxiety is normal, and even sadness or depression or stress or uncertainty, they're all normal, and I can come through the other end. And when I get up tomorrow, I can get up with a whole new attitude, and they just might need that support. They might not want to talk to mum and dad, but they'll pick up their phone and watch it in their room. I think those are the avenues, because you and I get it. People older than us get it. People younger than us get it, and we can all be in it together. And I feel like that's what Corona is actually, if there's going to be a positive out of such a crazy situation, it's going to be that we're all going to crave human connection more and understand its importance.
Yeah, I always say mental health isn't racist. It's not bigotry. It doesn't care who you are, how old, young, sex you are. It affects everyone. So thank you very
100,
much, Glenn.
100%. Thanks, mate. Good to have a chat.
Yeah, no, it's been really good. So good luck with everything, and hopefully you can keep your head above water during all this crisis, and move forward.
Thanks, mate. That's the plan.
Too easy. Thanks, Glenn.
Thanks, mate.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. In the description below will be all links to Glen Azar and all his projects, so please go check him out. Until next time, stay safe and look after each other.